hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Puck It with Jo. Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Jo here of SportsGrid, and it's time for Puck It with Jo over here on the SportsGrid TV on X as well as YouTube. If you guys can hit that like button, hit that retweet button, and hit that share button, I would so greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you're watching over on YouTube. We got 5 games to go over today, and I tell you, yesterday's player props were just cashing for us. I hope you guys got Erik Karlsson of the Pittsburgh Penguins for his 11th goal of the season, but 200th career goal as a defenseman, tying him for the 24th most career goals as a defenseman out there in the league. So I hope you guys are riding with that, because we almost got 5-1 to our money for that goal yesterday. Lots of players coming through for us, and I had a couple of you sending tickets of some nice big winners on those players that you did tail in yesterday's show. So congratulations to everyone who was cashing yesterday. If you didn't cash, let's get back on track today with your bets. We're going to go over all 5 of these games. We're also going to do the recap. That's the word I'm looking for. At the end of the show, we'll go over those player props again and talk about those different strategies that we can look at. Now, playoff implications on the line for a couple of these teams today, whether it's that wild card race or where they're going to be sitting within their division. And the first one, it kicks off with a battle of the Atlantic here between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, we know Toronto played last night in that loss to the Florida Panthers. It looked like Florida was going to have no one out there on the ice. And then as the day went on, these players were then listed as playing. Now, this was a 3-1 win for the Florida Panthers last night. So Toronto on the second night of a back-to-back. Another Atlantic divisional matchup here in this one. When we look at the lines, the Toronto Maple Leafs are a plus 152 underdog. You got to think that's because it's the second night of a back-to-back against another divisional opponent off a hard game last night. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have been really solid between the pipes. This team has been lighting that lamp ferociously out there on the ice. I can't believe what they've been able to do, how fast they've got up in a lot of these first periods. They're minus 184 on the money line. Now that total sitting at 5.5, minus 140 to the over 5.5. And if you want to take it to the under, it is coming in at plus 114. I can't take this one to the under. I know this should be playoff style hockey. I know both of these teams need to lock down. They need to rely on goaltending. Andrei Vasilevsky's only allowed 5 goals in his last 5 games. But with the way the Tampa Bay Lightning play, I can't take this under that total. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been so strong offensively. They stay out of the box and Toronto goes in the box. That power play is going to convert here for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that total, I just can't do it. I will look, though, at this first period. I think the first period is where we start off hot in this one. Man, I can't talk today. Maybe more coffee is needed. Give me the first period over 1.5 goals. I do think we could see Tampa score both of those. We could also see Toronto on that second night of back-to-back. You know, these teams try to make that big push, especially offensively, and then try to lock down in that first period. I think we're going to get 2 goals in the first period. I don't know who, or I don't care who gets them. Just taking the over 1.5. I'm not going to take both teams to score. The over 1.5, it's a little juicy at minus 130, but I do think we play into that style of game to start this. Now, we could see that lockdown, absolutely. But I think this game has a possibility of going to overtime between these two teams. So it's a plus 350 bet to go to overtime. We could see 2-2 going to overtime, which keeps us under the 5.5. Or we could see that 3-3 situation where we've got a 3-2 game. Then we see that tie up and that pushes us over the total. So not willing to touch it. With how Toronto and Tampa can play offensively, I do think we're more than likely having that 4-3 style win in OT, but I won't be shocked if it's a 2-1, 3-2 style win in overtime. So I'm going to take the overtime bet at plus 350. I'll take that first period to start off hot, over 1.5 goals at minus 130. And then I'm going to stay off a lot of the player props unless I'm looking here, kind of the power play conversion. I'd look at the power play point for Braden Point. Nick Paul has been really strong versus the Maple Leafs as well for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He scored at least one goal in the last 4 versus Toronto. So if you want to look at Nick Paul here, you're going to get him at like plus 650 for a goal. I'd look at the point. Max Domi needs to stay out of the box. Max Domi has had 67 penalty minutes, which is just insane. So definitely something to note. Let's look for Tampa to be able to execute on that power play. When we look at how these teams are sitting, this is such a meaningful game. And this is where I normally like to take those unders. But like I said, I just can't do it in this one. First in the Atlantic here for the Toronto Maple Leafs with 98 points in 77 games. 2 points behind them here with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Second in the Atlantic, 96 with 77 games. So only 2 points separating them. The Tampa Bay Lightning will move into that first place if they get the win in this one. So this is going to be a battle. I know Toronto's owned this matchup. They won the last 3. They won the 3 of the last 4 in Tampa as well. And they won that last meeting in January 5-3. So covering that puck line. I just think the speed here, Tampa, if they bring their speed, if they convert on the power play and they crash the net like they love to do, will get the win in this game. They won their last 4 games and covered the puck line at home in those last 4. So I do think this is a strong suit. They're off that win versus the Rangers 5-1 on Monday, and look for that style of hockey out there for sure. Mo, it's good to see you. I'll definitely put those player props at the end of the show for when you're watching the recap later. But thank you so much for being here. Kev, you made some freaking money yesterday. I am so glad to see the money that you cashed. Kev cashing with the under 1.5, the Red Wings, the Maple Leafs and the Panthers first period under 1.5. Fantastic. The Boston Bruins team total over 2.5. The Sabres team total over 2.5. The Stars and the Canucks over 5.5. The under 1.5 for Vegas in the first period. Vegas to score the first goal. And the Avs and Vegas in OT. Kev, I love to hear that. It's always a great day to see where you guys are making some freaking money out there on the ice. Let's continue to roll with that today in these 5 games. We've got another loaded slate tomorrow, so make sure you join back here tomorrow as well. But let's move on to the second game. 7:30 Eastern puck drop between the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Rangers. Now, the New York Rangers are like right around that minus 180 mark. As a favorite, juice is starting to drop a little, minus 178 currently, plus 146 for a Flyers team who we know is going to come out aggressive and look to just crush the hopes of the Rangers here in any chance to make the playoffs. Now, I don't think the Rangers are going to make the playoffs, but they would need so much to happen to be able to do so. Still not mathematically eliminated. So they're going to be digging deep to be able to get the win today. We have a total of 5.5, minus 128 to the over and plus 104 to the under. I do think this is an under game. I look at Igor Shesterkin and what he's able to do between the pipes. And Igor Shesterkin, when he's hot, is so hot. And I do think he can play a strong game here. Now, it's really interesting to see how strong the Rangers have been on the faceoff. They've been able to win the faceoff, one of the highest teams in the league at 53.9%. And they're so aggressive physically out there on the defensive side. They've recorded 1,958 hits on the season. You guys know I love defense. I love those defensive props. Still not getting those block shots. Still not getting props for any kind of hits. I wish we could get something like that because the New York Rangers would be a team that I would be looking at for those hits out there on the ice with their ability to come out so strong on the defensive side. The forecheck and the back check are just incredible for this team. Now we look at a Rangers team. They've lost their last 2. They're really shooting themselves in the foot for their playoff hopes. 4th in the Metro, 79 points in 77 games. They are 8 points, 8 whole points behind the Montreal Canadiens, but a game in hand for that last spot in the wild card. But you look at their schedule. They've got tonight versus the Flyers, very winnable. They have the Islanders on Thursday, at the Canes on Saturday, at the Panthers on Monday, then home versus the Lightning to end the season. So we're looking at 5 games. Montreal has played an extra game. They are 8 points ahead. Montreal would have to collapse, and the New York Rangers would have to go on a hot run here. I just don't see it happening. But the Rangers are going to play their best hockey until they are officially eliminated and then look for this team to check into we're going to Mexico kind of mode, because I do think that's what we're going to see out of them. I do expect the best out of them, but you're playing a Philadelphia Flyers team who has nothing to play for. They're 8th in the Metro. They've been eliminated. They're going to get a nice draft pick. They look to play spoiler. And these teams that have really struggled within their division look to just finish the season on a high note. I'll never forget a couple seasons ago watching my Calgary Flames play the San Jose Sharks, and what was the end of the season for both of those teams as Calgary wasn't making the playoffs, but the Sharks just come out and dominate the Calgary Flames because they do, and it was in Calgary, so they do like to play spoiler. They do like to finish strong, especially with divisional opponents. So this is a battle in the Metro. 8th in the Metro here for the Flyers and 4th in the Metro here for the New York Rangers. So look for that competitiveness. Look for a very physical game between these two. And I do think it's a high intensity game, which keeps us under that total of 5.5. We know the Flyers have had those struggles at scoring. They're up that loss to Montreal 3-2 on Saturday. Looking at their look ahead situation, they have the Islanders on deck as well. They play the Islanders on Saturday. They're at the Sens on Sunday. They're versus Columbus at home for their last home game on Tuesday. And then they got the Sabres to end the season out there on the road. So look for that physicality out of the Flyers. How I'm going to bet this game, the biggest question here, the last time these teams matched up, the Rangers got that 6-1 win. I do think the Rangers win this, but I do think it's a tighter battle than the number. I would look at just the Rangers in regulation. Now, I think you're flirting a little bit with danger if you're looking at the Rangers team total over 3.5 at -102, because I could see them winning this in that 3-2 style game because of the physicality of this one. So I can't take the under 3.5. But I also don't want to take the over because I do think we could see or the under or the over. I don't want to take either sides of it because I could see that 3-2 style and then the empty netter pushing us over. And then I could just see that 3-2 style finishing that way. So I'll stay off the Rangers team total. I don't blame you if you want to take it to either side of that. I do like the regulation bet. They've won 8 of the last 10 versus the Philadelphia Flyers as well. And they're going to have playoff style urgency in this one. So look for a strong performance out of the Rangers and then to get it done in the 60 minutes. So that's coming in at -120. We got to talk about a couple of players here, even though I do think that you got to be cautious with the player props because I'm looking for this one to stay under the total of 5.5. There's playmakers that we have to talk about and we have to look at. Now, if you're looking at the Flyers, we know that loose style of play with these teams can equal some goals. So you got Travis Konecny here. He is loading for 0.75 and goal 25. So definitely someone that you want to circle if you're looking for player props for the Flyers. And Michkov here has goal number 25 loading. He's got 24 goals, 34 assists, and 58 points. So those are your two players. I'm not going to play anything with them, but I just want to highlight them for you guys. And then when we look at the New York Rangers, there is a lot we can break down in this one. The New York Rangers, I don't know if you guys realize, they lead the NHL in shorthanded goals on this season with 15 shorties, which is tied for the third most in a single franchise history here for the Rangers. So they've had a strong season getting those shorties on the board. And who is leading the way on the power play? Well, it's Chris Kreider, you guys, and he's got 116 career power play goals on his career. So not on the season, of course, but on his career. He sits one power play goal away from breaking the franchise record of 116. So he's sitting right there at 116. One more breaks the record for him. If he's going to convert on a power play, you would expect it to be against a weak kill here of the Flyers. So Chris Kreider, power play point tonight, I would look at. I do think it would come via a goal. When we're looking at Panarin, there's no denying what Panarin can do out there on the ice. His anytime goal tonight's coming in at +145. He's got goal number 35 of the season loading. He also has 49 assists, assist number 50 loading, and 83 points. I do think we could see 2 points tonight out of Panarin, even if this is a 3 goal game for the New York Rangers. Panarin in the mix with 2 of those via the goal or via the goal and the assist to give us the 2 points to put him at both 35 35 goals and 50 assists. So I do think we can have the combination of both of those. So the 2+ points for Panarin at +200. I will be playing that. I'll be playing Panarin for 2+ points and the goal at +145. Now, Panarin has 15 points in his last 18 games, 11 goals and 13 assists. With one more goal to go, he does reach 300 goals in his career. And then, yeah, it's crazy. So he was undrafted, you guys. He will be the only undrafted player with 300 career goals. It's insane what Panarin has been able to do as an undrafted player out there. Now, JT Miller has recorded 6 points in his last 7 games. He's got 3 goals and 6 assists in those last 7. And since he joined the New York Rangers, JT Miller has 9 multi-point games, tied with the 7th most in the NHL. So February, he came over to the Rangers from the Vancouver Canucks, and he has just been getting those multiple points on the board. He is the only player since the 2021-2022 season to record 300 or more points, as well as 600 or more hits. JT Miller's so physical out there on the ice. You got to love what he brings to the table for the New York Rangers. Adam Fox has been playing nice and strong. He's recorded 12 points in his last 18 games, 6 goals and 10 assists. And then Trocheck has 7 points in his last 12 games, 14 in his last 17. So you got Trocheck and Adam Fox playing elite. You've got JT Miller, so strong offensively and defensively out there. And then Panarin looking for his 300th career goal tonight and his 85th point, and he's 2 away from that. So I do think we see Panarin really step up. He would be my main go-to playmaker. We've also got Chris Kreider looking for that power play goal tonight to break records as well, franchise history. So a big night for the New York Rangers, and I think they are able to get it done. Lisa, good morning to you. It's so great to see you guys here each and every day. Puckline, I hope no one had the Dallas. Oh, I can't believe Dallas the last time out. It was absolutely awful. Yeah, let's make some freaking money. Lisa, I'm glad that you're making some money out there. Let's continue it into today. If the Wild lose this one, they have no place in the playoffs. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Wild. They definitely need this a win tonight. And yes, I'm going to look at Panarin. Panarin for 2+ points at plus 200. You can throw in the goal too at plus 145. Panarin looking to load for career goal number 300. I do think he gets that tonight. The 2+ points in a lower scoring game is hard to come by, but I do think the point and the assist probably comes for him. So I think it is a great way to go with his matchup. Now let's move on to the San Jose Sharks versus the Minnesota Wild. You guys, just throughout the Wild, they need this win. They are a $3 favorite though, so we got to find some value in betting the Minnesota Wild. And I hate to do this, you guys. I do think the Wild get the win, and I think they win it big. Puck line here for the Minnesota Wild, laying 1.5 at minus 120. I hate to do it because I'm a Calgary fan. With a win tonight by the Wild, it basically crushes Calgary's hopes to make the playoffs. Still mathematically possible, but we would need a complete fall by the Minnesota Wild after this game, not being able to win anything, in Calgary picking up every single point. So I just don't see it happening for Calgary this year in the playoffs, but I'm impressed with what we've seen out of them. The Wild need to get this win. The Wild laying 1.5 on the puck line at minus 120. I know this Sharks team is scrappy. The problem with the Sharks tonight is Tyler Toffoli is listed day-to-day. I don't think we're going to see Toffoli hit the ice. This team, of course, wants to play spoiler here versus the Minnesota Wild, and they know they'd be spoiling the hopes for the Calgary Flames, who's a divisional opponent. My problem with betting anything for the Sharks tonight is Marc-Andre Fleury. We know this is the last season here for Marc-Andre Fleury, and this could be his very last home game in Minnesota before he retires. This also could be his very last game. We don't know what the Wild are going to do with goaltending over the next couple of games here. They have the Flames, so expect not Marc-Andre Fleury, and then Vancouver, and then the Ducks. We don't know if we're going to get Marc-Andre Fleury in that last game versus the Ducks. If this is coming down to the wire, we might not get him. We'd have to look at his numbers versus the Ducks. The coaches, of course, know their stats versus each team. This could be his very last game of the season, could be his very last home game at least. So looking at Marc-Andre Fleury here, he's gone 12-9-1 on the season with a 2.78 goals against average and 903 save percentage versus the Sharks in his career. He's gone 9-1 in 10 games with a 1.74 goals against average and 940 save percentage. Marc-Andre Fleury for the shutout is exactly where I'd want to go with this game. I do think he can get that shutout. He's got 76 career shutouts. That will put him at 77 career shutouts finishing this season and his career in the NHL so strong. It gives me shivers because I look at Marc-Andre Fleury and what he's been able to do over the years, and it's going to be so sad not to have him out there on the ice. It's like seeing these legends wrap things up is crazy, and it's going to be a great game, I do think, for him out there. We look at the San Jose Sharks. This team has been struggling to score. They've lost their last 6 games. They're 2-7-1 in their last 10, and the Wild, off that comeback win versus the Dallas Stars, have so much to fight for in this matchup. So I'm going to look at the Wild. I'm going to lay the puck line laying 1.5 at -120, but I'm not going to stop there, you guys. I think this is a 3-0 shutout win for the Minnesota Wild. So give me the alt puck line laying 2.5 for them at +162. And like I said, this pains me so much because I would love nothing more than to see the Sharks come out, get the win, and Calgary have a fighting chance still in the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening. Not with Marc-Andre Fleury in net, not with the storyline behind him, not with this being probably one of his last, if not his last, home game for Minnesota of his career. So you can look at a couple other ways to bet it. If you don't like the shutout, you think the Sharks are going to get 1 goal. The Sharks team total under 2.5 goals, way too juicy at -180. You can ult it to under 1.5 goals. You're going to get great plus money with that. Again, Toffoli leads this team in goals this season with 28 goals. He is listed day to day. I don't expect him out there on the ice. And I just can't trust the Sharks to get it done. So that is where I'm going. I think 3-0 win here for the Minnesota Wild. At worst, 4-1. So it's going to be painful as a Calgary fan if this bet hits, but it will be nice for my wallet. So let's go with money over love all day long, you guys. The Calgary Flames then will have their puck drop at 10 o'clock with the Anaheim Ducks. Now, they can't give up in this game, even if we see the game with the Minnesota Wild and the San Jose Sharks playing out that way, because there is still a fighting chance for them to get that wild card spot if then the Wild just fall flat for their next 3 games. So Calgary still has the ability, and I do think they come out nice and strong versus the Ducks. It is Dustin Wolf versus Dostal for your goaltending matchup. Calgary 4th in the Pacific, 87 points in 77 games, 4 points behind the Wild with a game in hand. So they won't be out of it, but they really will, in my opinion. We're seeing them face an Anaheim Ducks team looking to play spoiler. They're eliminated 6 in the Pacific. Divisional opponents here, always a dangerous situation. They're off a win versus the Oilers on Monday, 3-2. They're at the Kings on Thursday versus the Avs on Sunday for their last home game. So circle that last home game for these players to really step up. And then they'll be on the road versus the Wild and the Jets. So when they face the Avs will pretty much know where they're going to be sitting based on the next couple of wins. So it will be probably a good game for the Ducks to get some goals on the board. We should see some players resting for the Avs. When we look here at the Calgary Flames, they need this win. They've got the Wild on Friday. So that's a huge matchup between Calgary and Minnesota on Friday. Calgary will be at home for that one. Then they have the Sharks on Sunday, Vegas on Tuesday, and at the Kings to end the season. So Calgary's really going to know basically where they're sitting Friday after that game versus the Wild. That will determine everything out there. If Calgary's able to win tonight and then Calgary's able to beat the Wild and we see the Wild lose in some weird instant to the Sharks tonight, then Calgary will move into that wild card spot. So look for that fight out of the Calgary Flames. I'm going to take them puck line here, laying 1.5 goals versus the Ducks. It's coming in at +134. I do also like their team total over 3.5 goals at +100. They just won last Thursday 4-1 at home versus the Ducks, and they won the last 2 prior. I do think Calgary wins and covers the puck line. So Calgary puck line laying 1.5 goals is actually coming in at +154 now. We're getting 20 cents more value. I still like their team total over 3.5. I think it's coming. Now, Cutter Gauthier here for the Ducks. If you did not see his incredible goal in his last game, he was just on fire. I think he actually ended up getting 3 points, 2 goals, and an assist out there in that win versus the Oilers. He was just fantastic. So watch Cutter Gauthier out there for the Ducks tonight. This is going to be a name that really starts driving home next season as I'm looking for that big step up. He's a rookie this year, and I do think we're going to see him just light things up next season. So definitely a player you like when we're going to look at futures. we'll be looking at futures for him. Now, Zane Parekh coming out here for Calgary. He's a defenseman. He just got pulled back up from the OHL. So I do think he's going to be impactful for Calgary tonight. He's been so impressive in his junior season with the OHL with 107 points in 61 games. So look for him to come out nice and strong for Calgary on that defensive side of the puck tonight as well. So just a couple more numbers we're going to be looking at out there. Let's move on to the St. Louis Blues versus the Edmonton Oilers. This is going to be a great game tonight. I am expecting Connor McDavid not to hit the ice. There is news that he was out there skating. I'm not seeing any reports of him officially on the ice, but I look at Connor McDavid without Leon Draisaitl. That's going to be hard out there. Do they want to rush Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl back into this lineup tonight versus the St. Louis Blues? They probably would like to stop the bleeding here on this losing streak, but I just don't think it's worth it. The books are reflecting that I think Connor McDavid will hit the ice at -142 for the Oilers at home and +118 for the St. Louis Blues. We know the Blues were rolling so hot, then they took the loss to the Winnipeg Jets. Does that all of a sudden start a losing streak here, or does that allow us for that bounce back opportunity? I'm going to go with the bounce back opportunity. I look at Edmonton. I look at all those injuries. Skinner still not between the pipes. Pickard in there. And I look at the St. Louis Blues and their grit and their ability to dig deep in these games. Robert Thomas, Jake Neighbors to come out so strong. And I can't take the Edmonton Oilers. I'm looking at this total sitting at 5.5. We've got a juice total at -124 to the over, -104 to the under. I'm going to look for the St. Louis Blues to win this in a 5-2 style game. I'm going to do the alt puck line, laying a goal and a half with the St. Louis Blues at +260. I just can't get behind Edmonton. I'm assuming Connor McDavid isn't in the lineup for this to hit. That he might be though, but I still am I can't ride with Edmonton. Now, when we look at Edmonton though, they won in December 4-2 at home. They won 3-2 in overtime in St. Louis in February. They're looking to sweep the St. Louis Blues on the season. The last time they swept the St. Louis Blues on the season was the 2016-2017 season. So it has been years and years since they've been able to do that. The Blues have not won a game, though, in Edmonton since December of 2022. Not pretty there. That's 2 seasons ago, you guys. Impactful game here for the Blues. The Blues are sitting 4th in the Central, 93 points in 79 games. First wild card spot in the West. If they win 2 of their final 3 games in reg, they will clinch a playoff spot. Okay. A loss by the Calgary Flames tonight would be good for the Blues as well. The Blues could clinch tonight if they win in reg and the Flames lose in regulation. So the Blues will clinch tonight based on those 2 things happening. We're looking at an Oilers team that would need to lose 4 of their last 5 games in reg in order for the Flames to take that 3rd spot in the Pacific. I don't see that happening either, you guys. Yes, Edmonton's been playing bad, but I do think you look at their schedule. They've lost the last 2. They lost to the Ducks on Monday, 3-2. They've got the Sharks on Friday, at the Jets on Sunday, and they finish with the LA Kings. So I do think they beat the Sharks. I do think it's possible, but they would have to lose for their last 5. I just don't see the Oilers not making it and Calgary taking over. So they're 3rd in the Pacific with 93 points in 77 games. 4 points behind the Kings for 2nd place. Edmonton can clinch a playoff spot with a win tonight over the St. Louis Blues, and Calgary with the loss to the Anaheim Ducks. So hopefully Calgary wins. Hopefully the St. Louis Blues win and keep playoff hopes alive here for the Calgary Flames. And for the Blues, they will clinch that first wild card spot. The Edmonton Oilers have won their last 4 at home. As a favorite, I can't see them getting it done. So I'm going to look at the Blues money line. If you want to tell me, I'm also alting that puck line, laying 1.5 for the alt puck line at +260. Let's look at some of these players here for the Blues. I'm going to stay off everyone for the Edmonton Oilers. Corey Perry might be someone you want to look at for the Oilers. That's going to get you great plus money. We know he always comes out strong to make that push for the playoffs. Robert Thomas has been lights out for the St. Louis Blues. He has 2 goals and 8 assists in the last 5 games. So Robert Thomas, you want to look at for his player props. Dylan Holloway has not played since Thursday. He's still listed as week to week. He was a former Oilers player. I would hope for him to get back out on the ice tonight, but no confirmations if Holloway is going to be playing. I'm assuming he is not. But if Holloway does make the ice, I'd look at him for a point versus his former team. And then we got to look at the young kid that the St. Louis Blues just brought up, Jimmy Snugrid, to score his first NHL goal. How can we not look at it here versus Pickard in goal for Edmonton, especially with how Edmonton's defense has been playing with the goaltending? Jimmy Snugrid should be able to step up nice and strong in this matchup on those lines. And his first NHL goal coming in here tonight at plus 370. I do think he has every opportunity of getting it on the board versus the Edmonton Oilers, who I just don't trust in goals. So when we look at the St. Louis Blues' schedule, like I said, 4th in the Central, they'd won their they had that huge stretch. It was 12 or 13 games they'd won before losing that last one to the Jets. They're at the Kraken on Saturday, and then they end the season at home on Tuesday versus the Kraken. So limited games out there for this team, and I do think they have the ability to clinch that wild card first spot tonight. So let's take the St. Louis Blues. Okay. Yeah, let's make some freaking money. That is for sure. Winning Wednesday. Cappy might play tonight depending on morning skate. Yeah, there's a lot to go over with those morning skates. So during the day, if things really do adjust, I will drop a couple of notes over on X as well as on the YouTube posts on different things that I'm looking at. But let's get into the recap here, you guys, and then we'll talk about those player props for the 2+ points that I'm liking the most. The players I'm liking the most for those goals as well. And then I'll send you on your way. And tomorrow it's going to be a loaded show, so don't miss it. The Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know this should be playoff style hockey with both of these teams looking to lock down. But I think that first period starts off with a bang. Give me the first period over 1.5 goals at minus 130. Give me the overtime bet at plus 350. Very cautious with this totals. I could see it 2-2 going to OT or 3-3 going to overtime. I expect the Lightning to win this. If the Lightning win, I think it's a 4-3 overtime win at plus 350. If Toronto wins this, I think it's a 3-2 overtime win. So that is where I'm going. The overtime bet and the over 1.5 being the best bets in those games. When we're looking at the Flyers versus the Rangers, I think the Rangers in regulation at minus 120 is your best bet. Look for a highly physical battle between these two, with the Flyers with nothing to play for. The Rangers playing for their playoff urgency hopes here. And I do think we're going to see strong performance out of them, especially Panarin, Chris Kreider. We're going to look at those player props in a couple of minutes here. The San Jose Sharks versus the Minnesota Wild. Give me Marc-Andre Fleury for the shutout. The freaking love him for a shutout. I'm guessing this is either his last or his second last game that he plays of his whole NHL career. We know he is retiring. He's facing the San Jose Sharks, who have lost their last 6 games, 2-7-1 in their last 10. If you don't like the shutout, you think the Sharks are going to get 1 goal, great. So the books have a total of 2.5 for the Sharks. Is 2 juiced at minus 180 to the under. I'd alt it to under 1.5 goals. There's always a fear of the 1 goal coming on these goaltenders. I do think the Wild, even though it kills my Calgary Flames' chances for the playoffs, the Wild puck line laying 1.5 goals at minus 120. Or the alt puck line. You guys know I'm going alt, laying 2.5 goals at plus 162. I freaking love that plus money. If I have an opportunity when I think it's going to be a 3-0 game or 4-1 at the very most game, I have to do the alt puck line. So if you just want to do puck line minus 120, the alt puck line laying 2.5 at plus 162. The Calgary Flames versus the Anaheim Ducks. Give me Calgary to come out so strong in this one. The Ducks will be looking to play spoiler. Calgary knows that they can't take any chances here. They have to win, and they have to win big. Give me the Calgary Flames laying 1.5 on the puck line at plus 134. I also like their team total over 3.5 goals. I do expect them to get 4 goals. That's coming in at plus 100. The St. Louis Blues versus the Edmonton Oilers. I'm riding with the St. Louis Blues. I know some teams, once they lose off a long winning streak, will lose that next game. But I look at the Edmonton Oilers, still no confirmation on who is going to be hitting the ice tonight. Still a backup goaltender in Pickard here that has played way more games than he would have expected on the season. Still a St. Louis Blues team that can grind out these games and get the win. Give me the St. Louis Blues plus 112 on the money line. Give me the St. Louis Blues in a 5-2 win. I'll do the old puck line laying a goal and a half for the Blues at plus 260. So let's get into those player props and where I'm looking for them. My favorite player tonight for his points is Panarin. Looking at Panarin here of the New York Rangers to come out phenomenally strong. 2+ points coming in at plus 200. Now, I do think he gets a goal in the combination of those 2 points tonight. So his goal coming in at plus 145. This will be his milestone 300 goal of his career. So Panarin for the goal, plus 145 for the 2+ points at plus 200. Chris Kreider looking to break franchise power play records. He has 116 career power play goals. I would take him for the power play point tonight. Don't take the goal. I actually don't see the power play goal on FanDuel, but I'd take the power play point for him to hit 117, hitting those franchise records. The New York Rangers are the strongest team this season with those power play goals, which is shocking. We're also going to look at, the shorthanded goals, not the power play goals, the shorthanded goals. They have been so strong at that. You got to look at JT Miller and Trocheck and Adam Fox for their points if you want anything else in that game. But then that's my favorite one. I would also look at, I'm going to avoid the other games. I think the puck is spread out in the rest of them, except for the St. Louis Blues. I would look at Holloway if he plays tonight, but still no confirmation if we'll see him on the ice. Robert Thomas for a point, combined with Jimmy Snugrid for a point. You're going to get plus money there, but I'm looking at Snugrid for his first goal of his career in the NHL at plus 370. So that is where I'm going to go with my favorite player props of the night. I do think we've got some great games out there, and I want to wish you guys all the best. If you're looking at the Tampa Bay points tonight, it's Braden Point on the power play. I'm looking at those power play points. One other thing to note, Nick Paul for his goal. He's scored at least 1 goal in each of the last 4 appearances versus the Maple Leafs for the Lightning. So Nick Paul has been on point versus Toronto. Okay, you guys, let's make some freaking money. I wish you all the best in all of your bets. Again, if you can hit that like, hit that retweet, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it. We all want this show. Well, at least I do. Let me know if you don't. I want this show to go every day next NHL season as well. So let's keep it rolling. All you have to do is hit that like, hit that subscribe, drop those comments below on what you're liking, where you're cashing, where you're winning with us here. And those chats, you guys, the chats here have been money makers as well. So the live chats always, if you're watching the recap, go back, read those live chat comments on YouTube as well, because you guys got Cutter the other day for that goal. You guys have been throwing out some great players, great prop bets. So I tip my hat to each and every one of you. Let's make some freaking money. We'll see you back here at noon Eastern tomorrow, and let's stay hot. See you guys. Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies.